information or comments about it?
No, sounds good.
All right, can I have a motion to accept the gate?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye. Next up is the appointment of Tom Geyer as the Veterans Grave Officer. Could I have a motion to appoint Mr. Geyer as the Veterans Grave Officer?
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Next is Bolton Access Television. They are here for their quarterly release of funds that have been collected through Comcast and dispersed to the town. Nikki, would you like to bring us up to date on what's going on with Bolton Access Television?
Sure. Well, we've had a strangely busy summer, but it's been busy in the sense of covering meetings and school committee rather than big public events or concerts like we normally be doing during the summer. We have done a few COA exercise classes that have been out at the Bolton Commons, which have been fun, and did a buckthorn walk last Saturday with the Conservation Commission. So that was cool too. So that's kind of been us. You know, we're still mostly working remotely and, you know, just kind of going in when we need to handle equipment, and that's been our summer.
No surprises and everything's been very stable?
Yeah, it's been okay. We've got our Q2 Comcast payment in. It is down a little bit. It's down about $500 from the previous one. The previous one was actually up, not by a whole lot, just about $100. But so you know, we were expecting that it would be maybe down a little bit or about flat. And you know, $500 isn't bad given all of the strange circumstances that have been going on.
Okay, very good. Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Nope.
I'll make a motion to release $26,148.21 to Bolton Access Television.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Is Erica with us?
Hi, Bob.
Hi,
Hi,
how are you?
Erica.
There you go. So
Good.
yes,
How are you?
You are with us.
I am.
We've got several issues regarding the planning board. So the first one is review and provide comment on the waiver list for the woods at Farm Road. Can you give us an overview of that?
Sure. So the Woods at Farm Road is a 40B right now. That's before the Zoning Board of Appeals. We're basically pretty much through the public hearing process. I expect that the board will close that hearing maybe the next couple of meetings. So at this point, they've asked for the various boards to weigh in on the waiver list. So under 40B, applicants can seek waivers from our local bylaws and regulations. And the ones that they're requesting under this project are pretty standard. Basically, they're looking to do work within the 100-foot buffer because most of the development is within the 100-foot buffer. And then also in terms of the zoning, some reduced frontage setbacks.
Can
Okay.
we look at all of the waivers for the 100-foot buffer? Those are the ones that jumped out at me. It's a long list. So is that really? Back up, Jenny.
Sorry.
Sorry, that's okay.
There you are.
So that seems like an extensive list to me, Erica. You know, some things are, yeah. really close. So I'm just wondering what your take is on this.
So the closest work that'll be done to the wetland resource area, there are some existing structures out there. There's what we call a sugar shack and a root cellar. And both of those structures are located within the 25-foot no disturb under the local bylaw. So that's probably the most impactful. So they're gonna have to obviously get approval from conservation, a notice of intent for that work. And that waiver's in here as well. But they've provided a plan for how they would access those structures. It would all be done from the upland side. They don't anticipate any significant trees from being removed to do that. So I'm imagining that the
They already
conservation.
approved the gate and the other guy, so I'm just.
So I would say that's probably the most impactful. And then as far as the units go, they are within the 100-foot. They will be applying for the to the Conservation Commission for the notice of intent. That's, at this point, that's sort of where we're at.
Jenny, can you just scroll down a little bit more? Yeah. So to allow grading and clearing to occur 33 feet from the edge of wetlands, to allow fire access for unit 1, construction of the sewage disposal system and dwelling units. So that's really close.
It's relatively close, right? And that's why I say that they'll still need to go through the notice of intent process with conservation, and conservation can certainly request mitigation of that work. So I think at this point, the Zoning Board of Appeals, like I said, they're looking for other boards and committees to provide them some feedback on what direction they should take when they opine and deliberate on these waivers.
The waivers they're asking for are low. Are the things they're doing, I guess that was a question. And but the things they're doing are still outside of the state restrictions?
So they're still required, like I said, they're still required to file through conservation. It's DEP as well, for the notice of intent, because they're within that 100-foot buffer. So no, I mean, they're still having to meet the State Wetlands Protection Act. So they're still required to do that. Under the local bylaw, and Rebecca obviously could speak better to this, but under the local bylaw, what we call the adjacent upland resource area, which is essentially that 75 feet of the 100-foot buffer, we actually consider wetland resource area in Bolton. So there's the 25-foot no disturb, and then that 75-foot area. So that's where all this work is proposed to be. And I think that's why they're seeking the waivers. But at the end of the day, they're still required to meet the state's Wetlands Protection Act.
So just assuming all these waivers were granted, I'm just asking this to make sure I understand it. They'd still be within state.
Correct. They
Okay.
still have to meet
They would still meet the requirements of the state.
Yes, they still have to file with the Conservation Commission. They still have to get their notice of intent. They have to go through that process. Conservation Commission can look at stormwater management options with them. I mean, they're proposing it anyway, but they can also do a secondary review of that. So they have to go through that process.
Yeah.
So tonight,
Go ahead.
are we just giving you feedback, or are we voting?
I think the board can do whatever it feels comfortable doing. If you feel comfortable only providing feedback, that's fine. If the board is comfortable enough and would like to take a vote, I think that's fine too. So I don't think the Zoning Board of Appeals is really looking for one or the other. It's, they were just seeking comment. So if this board has comment, great. If the board doesn't, that's fine too.
Yes, I would just say I have concerns about the extent the long list of waivers related to the wetland.
Well, if they can meet the requirements of the state and the Board of Health and Concom, then that's the standard that they have to meet. And if they can meet it, that's fine. I mean, that's not for us to sit here and say whether they can meet it or not.
Well, the
I mean,
ZBA
we may
is
not necessarily be
negotiating.
happy with some of this stuff, but really, this is not necessarily totally within our purview. So I defer to the other boards who actually have jurisdiction as to whether they approve this or not.
Yeah, so I wouldn't vote to approve this then. But I would like the ZBA is negotiating this with the developer, and I'd just like them to know that that I or we think, this list of waivers related to wetlands seems excessive.
Yeah, my take on it is I don't know that it's a small project. I guess for a project this size, it is a long list, but it seems they're extremely intrusive here. Particularly since we're talking about sewage and wells. So I agree. I don't think we're going to take a vote one way or the other on this, but you can take our individual opinions back if you'd like,
All right.
Erica, if that's
That
helpful.
would be great. Yeah, that is helpful. Yep.
Stan, do you want to offer an opinion, or, I mean, we're
No,
not going to vote on this.
I don't think we should be voting on it, but I think that some of the waivers are a bit excessive. But then again, they have to meet requirements that the state outlines and the Conservation Commission and the Board of Health. And if they can meet those requirements, then, if we think they're severe, then, but they meet them. If they don't, they don't. So I think we should let the various boards do their work. You never like to see, having to get the number of waivers that you do, but this is the name of the game for a 40B project, and that's part of the issue we have.
Erica, is this going to go to the ZBA before the Board of Health and Conservation and the like opine on this?
Of course. So they still, like I said, they still have to meet state standards. So they'll have to go to Board of Health to meet Title V for their septic and well, and then obviously conservation. And so they typically start with Zoning Board of Appeals for the comprehensive permit because they want the board to opine on these waivers, and then they'll know what direction to go with the board of, the Board of Health and Conservation.
All right, so basically our role here is the ZBA wants to take the temperature of the selectmen to see if, not if we're willing to draw a line in the sand, but, which way we're leaning and how much support they're going to have.
Correct.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
Erica,
particularly,
correct me if I'm wrong, Erica. Has any of this gone to those various boards, or are we still at the front end of the process?
No, we're at the front end of the project.
Okay.
It's just before Zoning Board of Appeals at this point.
Yeah.
They have gotten their wetland line delineated though, so that's one step forward in the right direction. So we do know that the wetland resource areas, are where they're shown on the plan.
Right. I think we would be better served to have some feedback from Concom and Board of Health as well.
Yeah, and that's part of this process. I have reached out to Rebecca for their comment as well as to Board of Health.
Yeah.
So
well, that's my opinion. Does anybody else want to add anything before we go on to the next item?
No, I'm good.
Jonathan, do you want to expand on other parts of this agreement?
Nope, I think it was clear. So yeah, please let them know.
Okay.
I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next from the planning board is to execute a Department of Housing and Community Development for the affordable units at Keys Farm.
Yes, so there are 2 local action units that we submitted to DHCD over last winter. They're located in that existing Bonazzoli house at 258 Hudson Road, which is now part of Moderator Way. And as part of that process of getting these units on our subsidized housing inventory, there's a regulatory agreement that needs to be signed. This is a pretty much a template from DHCD, and then they customize it for the project. So this was written up by DHCD, and now they're asking the town to sign. So, and it basically, it just outlines the use restrictions and the affordable component. So
Erica, is this something that this DHCD will allow the selectmen to designate the signature to me, or is this something that requires a wet signature from the chair?
I could certainly reach out to them and ask them. I just know in the past that it's been the chair that has signed. But given our current circumstances, I could certainly reach out and find that out.
There's
Well, I
actually,
mean-
there's going to be a document that the selectmen will need to sign for the town clerk later in the agenda. So
Okay.
it may be a moot point if they need to come in anyway.
Okay, so normally when we get to contracts or agreements, there's some opinion or some review that's been conducted by our legal team. Has this been reviewed?
I believe so. I think at some point our town council has reviewed it. It went back to DHCD, and then their attorney had some tweaks to it. But at the end of the day, these, like I said, these are sort of standard, it's a standard template that they use. It really is facilitated through DHCD. So if this board felt that they wanted town council to review the most recent changes, which were, I think, pretty minor, I certainly, with Don's permission, I could reach out to them. But
The only thing I like to confirm is that these are deed restricted, affordable in perpetuity.
that's exactly right. Yep, they
Okay.
will be.
Yes,
Good.
they will.
And they have
Alright.
one purchaser lined up right now. So that's why they're anxious to get this regulatory agreement signed.
So one purchaser for both units?
No,
or-
they went through the lottery process and they now have one purchaser. There's one unit that that's still available.
Okay.
But they do have a purchaser, that's seeking to, to buy. So they need this document signed to move that forward.
Don, do you have any comments on this?
No, it has been reviewed by council, as Erica said, and it's pretty much a boilerplate contract to begin with DHCD, so I have no concerns.
Okay. Could we have a motion then to execute the, what is this called? Department of Housing and Community Development? The regulatory
Regulatory
agreement. Okay, the regulatory agreement with HDCD.
And Keys Farms. Yes, I'll make that motion. I make a motion and we vote to approve and execute the regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants for ownership project of Keys Farm.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to execute an IMA for regional housing consultant. And an IMA is also known as a,
Intermunicipal agreement.
there we go, thank you. So this is an agreement between the towns of Harvard, Hudson, Bolton, Boxborough, Littleton, Lancaster, Stowe, and the Devon's Enterprise Commission. This is to work toward more affordable housing, is that correct?
In a roundabout way, yes. So this contract is to share consulting services with Metro West CD. They help to monitor our affordable housing, and as part of that, they also do what we call regional activities, and some of that is education, some of that is trying to drum up people that are seeking affordable housing. So one of the nice things about having Metro West CD and having this collaboration between communities is that we have these quarterly meetings, and sometimes more than that, where we do a roundtable discussion, and we're just able to bounce affordable housing ideas off of each other, understand the issues that each of the towns facing, and it's just a very helpful alliance that we have with the other communities beyond just the monitoring of our units.
And it's not clear to me what the expense of this is.
It's not in the IMA. That would probably be in
It
the
says it's an
contract.
attachment, but I can't find the,
I don't think, I
appendix.
apologize. I don't think I gave it to Jenny. Typically I want to say it's less than $2,000 a year. I can get the actual numbers for you. But it comes out of, we pay this out of our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Last year we may have, I don't even think we did. We always stay within the allocated hours from Metro West. I can either send it to Jenny or I can look it up quickly now if I can find it.
no, if it's,
So this is
if you think
the 6th year. I'm sorry.
if you think it's been around $2,000 and it's going to stay around there, that's close enough. And
Yes.
it's coming out of the Affordable Housing Fund.
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's also local activities that we can seek Metro West in assistance for. So for example, the end of FY 2020, it may have even been the beginning of this fiscal year, we had them review our draft housing production plan. So that was also beneficial.
Okay. Stan, Jonathan, any comments?
No, I mean, it's something we do pretty much every year, so I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with
Okay.
it.
Could I have a motion?
Yep, I'll make a motion to execute the IMA for regional housing consultant.
Second that?
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye,
Roll
Aye.
call, Waisaki,
aye,
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next to review an update on the housing development of the housing production plan for Bolton. And I think I saw Mark O'Hagan earlier in the presentation. Is he with us or is Brian
I'm here.
doing this?
Can you hear me?
Hi, Mark.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, hi, Brian. There you go.
Hey, Brian.
Both here.
Mark.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Erica, did you want to give a little introduction or?
So in 2000 and I think it was in 2019, we formed a housing production plan committee to spearhead the effort of updating our housing production plan. I think the last one that was approved by DHCD was in 2000, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, I think it was 2006. No, maybe it was even before that, maybe 2004.
Yeah.
And it hadn't been updated since then. So yeah, so for the last year and a half or so, we've been working to update the plan. And it's really, for the most part, a plan to figure out how we're going to meet that 10% affordable housing for our subsidized housing inventory. But beyond that, also understand just housing needs in general. So I don't know if you want to take it from there, Brian.
Sure. So I'll try to spin through these slides pretty quickly. If you have questions along the way, feel free to stop. But I kind of wanted to just get to the end and then answer any questions. Mark can answer any questions you guys might have. So Jenny, you want to hear? All right, perfect. So we can move to the next slide. All right, so basically this is for people that may not be familiar. Under 40B, if we're able to meet the 10% of our total housing units being considered part of our subsidized housing inventory, then essentially that provides us with more control and flexibility when it comes to the types of developments we have in town. We're obviously below that, but there are still ways to get greater control. And part of it, the last bullet down here is, you know, if we have an approved HPP, then as long as we're making some incremental progress in increasing our SHI, we get the benefit of safe harbor. So next slide. I know this is super hard to see, but the key stuff is on the side, which is basically like right now, we have 69 out of 1,729 units that are considered part of our subsidized housing inventory. So about 3.99% of our housing in Bolton is considered SHI eligible. So we're well below the 10% threshold. Next slide. I pretty much already covered this. One thing, though, just to keep in mind is that the time horizon for a housing production plan is generally 5 years. So all the stuff that you see in here and the strategies that we're going to talk about have sort of a 5-year time horizon. The required elements of a housing production plan, you have to have a housing needs assessment. You have to have set forth some affordable housing goals and then describe your implementation strategies. So we'll get into all that. Next slide. It has to be adopted by the planning board, the conservation commission, and this board, and then the town administrator will submit to DHCD, and there's sort of a time period where they check in and let us know if there's stuff we need to supplement, and then they'll either approve or disapprove. What point that I wanted to make, and it may be obvious to everybody on the Board of Selectmen, but it's just that there's like the legal definition of affordable, the capital A affordable, which is SHI eligible. But then I think in town, there's also a more colloquial understanding of affordable, which is just like, is it a home that people can afford, whether or not technically it falls under the SHI? And so a lot of the strategies here, we tried to make them not only geared toward the formal capital A affordable definition, but also just increasing affordable housing in Bolton in general. Next slide.
Could I just ask on that last slide?
Yep.
I'm assuming from what you're saying that the small A affordable is always less than the capital A affordable.
No, so small A affordable is actually higher than capital A affordable because especially in Bolton, and we can actually, maybe the way to talk about this is to look at the next slide while I answer.
Okay.
So Bolton is considered part of the Eastern Worcester County HUD metro area, and the median income for that whole area is 111,000. In Bolton, our median income is 155,000. So we're already at the high end of our metro area. So among the people that already live in Bolton, something that they might think of as being like relatively more affordable, especially if they were looking to downsize, it's still probably going to be more expensive than what the state would consider like affordable under the state's guidelines, because their guidelines are being
probably times 2.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then what this shows is basically like for the different income levels, for a family of 4, 80% of the area median income is $78,500. And so if somebody were applying for an affordable unit, their income would have to be at or below that threshold. Next slide. These are the elements of the housing needs assessment. Next slide. You guys, I think you got a copy of the full draft. So this is just hitting on some of the highlights. The thing I want to call your attention to is for demographics, if you go into the column on the right, that's a projection of population in 2030 out of the UMass Donahue Institute. And what it basically says is that Bolton's population is probably going to be 21.5% in the age 65 plus category in the next 10 years. So that's just sort of an important demographic trend that we think people need to be aware of. And it's a pretty big difference from where we were back in 2010. Next slide. This shows some of the median income by household type. The reason why I said 155 earlier is because I have the 2019 numbers in my head, but for purposes of this, we were using the 2017 data. So the median income is 151,000. The point I want to make here, though, is if you go down and you see householder age 65 or older, the median income there is 59,318, which is well below what would be considered like I think it would be at the 80%.
Large A affordable.
Yeah, exactly. So we do have people in town that have housing challenges. Next slide. This shows how over the past 20 years, our housing has skewed more expensive. So I kind of look at what percent of our housing stock was $300,000 or less. So in 2000, it was like almost 40% of our housing stock was under 300 grand. And now it's like only 10% or 11% is under 300 grand. And basically everything else is significantly more expensive. All right, next slide. So I really want to focus on table 5.7, where if you look at the people in Bolton who are part of a household making $75,000 or less, 72.9% of those folks are spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So that 30% number, that's sort of an affordability benchmark. If you're spending more than 30% of your income on housing, you're considered housing cost burdened. For the rest of Bolton, it's, you know, a quarter of people in Bolton are spending 30% or more of their housing, of their income on housing, but for the lower income folks, it's even higher. Next slide. All right, so just quickly, affordable housing goals, we want to come up with a plan to get closer and closer to the 10%. We would need about 105 new units, and it might even be higher than that. Mark, do you remember off the top of your head what the number is?
We're estimating probably another 25 to 30 units based on the growth from 2010 to 2020. So when the new census comes out, they'll readjust our percentage. So we're at 3.99 now. When all of that housing is added in, because we've got all the affordable units, we're probably going to drop down to below 3% for all practical purposes. And that, we're estimating there's been about 250 to 300 new housing units in the last decade. So that'll add roughly, 25 new, or add 25 to the 105 that we contemplate now. So about 130 units.
Okay, next slide, Jenny. We go into some of the different strategies in the report. Probably the one you'll want to ask about is one of the strategies we are recommending is the potential of a sizable friendly 40B development. All right, next slide. This just quickly, we've been using this slide deck in a few different contexts, so I apologize if it's stuff you all know, but that gives a sense of where some of the affordable units are around town right now. And then if you go to the last slide, in the report, we raised the possibility of potentially having a large rental development in this general neck of the woods in town. The Housing Production Plan Committee spent a good bit of time. Erica was terrific, and she printed out all sorts of maps in town, and we were looking at, like, if we wanted to try to get some sort of rental property, where might it be? And it seemed like actually the 117-495 intersection might make the most sense. And I guess at this point, maybe Mark, if you want to say a little bit more about why we do end up kind of recommending a large rental development as a key strategy, you could say a bit.
Sure, and I think even I was on a little earlier when you were talking about the Farm Road property or the small 40B. That what we have in town is we have a lot of smaller 40Bs that I think probably when the last housing production plan was done, that was kind of the concept. Let's take smaller ones, let's spread them out instead of having larger properties in certain area. So it kind of dissipates the impact. But it doesn't really, get you anywhere close to the 10%. Really, the only way that a town like Bolton can feasibly get to the 10% is by doing a rental. One of the key advantages from a rental property is that, if you do a for sale property for townhomes of 40 units, 25% are affordable. So 10 of them go to your housing stock. If you do a 40 unit rental or a 200 unit rental, even though only 25% of them are subsidized or have the lower rents, all 200 units count towards the subsidized housing inventory. So when you look around at some of the abutting communities in Berlin, you go to Boxborough, you go to Stowe, they're much closer or have met their their 10%. It was all through, more recent, larger rental communities. And one, and I think I've talked with some of, the different boards before, that I thought was a really interesting line from a selectman in a community that I was working on, it's a large rental that would get them over their 10%. And, one of the selectmen made the comment that, one of the things, we think that the project is well located. It was targeted in the area that they wanted to see some growth. But fundamentally, he said, one of the advantages of it is, we get to our 10% and we get our zoning back, in the sense that, these smaller projects that are proposed, in different areas throughout town, that may not be what the town wants to see in those locations, you now would have flexibility over those and in being in safe harbor. So it doesn't mean that the town wouldn't support other housing initiatives that might be smaller, that might be well located, but it would just give you a little more flexibility to make sure that the projects that were proposed match the needs of what the town may be looking for, and that you felt certain that the sites were suitable. So I think that's the biggest advantage that a larger rental will provide, based upon a lot of the information that we looked at. Looking at the aging population, a rental community would have likely, elevated buildings. They'd have, facilities for people, one floor living instead of townhomes and things. We also looked at, other, cottage types communities and, smaller types of housing that could be built that could be suitable for them. But the rentals in particular could be attractive to people that are older, that could have a sense of a community within them. And certainly have the type of facilities that would accommodate them, and would also, accommodate, younger people, younger families, or more younger people as compared to younger families. There isn't a whole bunch of school-age students that move into rental communities, based upon the research that we've done. So on top of those benefits, they generally are an economic producer for the community, in terms of the revenues from taxes as compared to the number of kids that go into the school system. So with a combination of all those things has kind of led us towards, let's try to see if we can, work with an established developer of building, larger properties, and try to create something in areas that we think the infrastructure can support more units and help us get to the 10%. And get a broader control over different housing initiatives that we may do in the future.
Okay, Jonathan, Stan, anything?
No, I think it makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, that this is almost a Yogi Berra deja vu all over again moment. I mean, there was such a proposal on Marco Hagan's property before he owned it years and years ago. That precisely would have done exactly what Mark has outlined. Unfortunately, that didn't get through. So no, I think that makes perfect sense. You satisfy the requirement in one fell swoop. It's typically younger people that are going to be renting those units, so you get the benefit of the taxes. You don't necessarily have a large influx of a lot of kids going to the schools, and you satisfy your affordability criteria. And to Mark's point, you get your zoning back, so then we have much more control over some of the other developments. I think it makes perfect sense. We just have to convince the rest of the town that it's a good idea, and find a piece of property where we can do that.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Nice work. Nice report. So how do you incentivize a rental development besides finding a specific developer who does that?
Well, I think there's been some interest in some different properties in town that I know Acre has been communicating with people on. It's really a matter of, it's dialogue like anything else, getting a sense of what they need, what types of numbers they need to make certain sites viable. One of the biggest constraints in town for a larger development is being able to get water and sewer, more specifically a community water supply and a wastewater treatment facility on the site. If you're looking at something that might be 200 plus units, they're both sizable systems and a sizable expense that really drives the nature of the development and how it actually is designed. So I think right now there are a lot of companies that are out there that have been very productive up and down 495. I'm sure everybody sees the properties along there. I think having different operators understand that there's a willingness for the town to support a project goes a long way in terms of attracting good developers and developers with a history that I think that we'd be comfortable with. I think that's kind of starting already, where there's been some outreach about different properties and them getting a sense that there could be a level of support based upon some of the work that we've done thus far. I think at the end of the day, the deal itself and the nature of what the proposal is going to drive it. So I don't think we need to offer money, offer anything of those natures. I think as long as people understand that there is a willingness of the community to work on a sizable project and that they could see some support and see a reasonably efficient approval process is incentive enough for quality developers. And Bolton, obviously, it's a wonderful community. People would love to be here with the access to 495 and everything else that's around it, and all the benefits that that we enjoy ourselves living here. So I think the willingness is the biggest incentive for the development community.
So how much land do you need for 220 unit rental? How many acres would you need for that?
A lot of it really depends on some of those infrastructure requirements that I talked about. Community water supplies, you need to have radiuses that are substantial. They can overlap, but you can't have anything in them. Depending on the nature of the soils can dictate how big of an area that you need for treatment, for drainage. So you could be anywhere from 15 to 30 acres to be able to make it work. But I would say you're probably in the 20 to 30 acres for it to be comfortable, again, depending on soil conditions and water availability and those types of things.
Okay, thank you.
Well, how many lots that size are there in Bolton?
There's a few of them in and around the interchange that I think that are actively being considered currently. So we're hopeful that something will come through. If you start going further down 117 towards Stowe, you've got some parcels there that are sizable. There's been questions, concerns about what could happen at the International. It's a sizable piece of land that's going through some transition. So I think if we can secure somebody, or somebody secures a parcel and is looking to move forward, and it is in a location that we think is more suitable than others, that it's in the town's interest to work with them and make it as attractive as possible. So it's not like there's 100 of them up and down, but there's probably a half a dozen parcels that are viable within the town that could be suitable for that type of housing.
Okay. Well, it sounds like a good plan. It's ambitious. It's education is going to be a major portion of this, because it's a big shift in viewpoint,
right?
Based on things I've heard at town meetings.
Yeah.
But it's a worthwhile effort.
Yeah, and I think that's where, again, earlier in the meeting, I know with working with Metro West CD and having that relationship, and they've been helpful to us. I think they'll be helpful from an education perspective, because they work directly with other communities that have had, in Boxborough, they've got the 250 unit property that was developed, just off the highway, not really visible. You need to know where it is. that they've been very happy with. And, we got a lot of data from them to get a sense of what the impact was to Boxborough or was not to Boxborough. And I think that information, from some surrounding communities and surrounding similar communities, Boxborough, Stowe, Berlin, Littleton, they're all very nice, comfortable bedroom communities as ours is. So I think that education and that type of information will be helpful. And I think we can, hopefully get people on board with the concept.
Erica, can we get rid of fee in lieu of money for future developments?
The planning board could certainly deliberate on that and consider that for, a bylaw amendment moving forward. I know in the past we've talked about that when we've modified the fee in lieu. The problem with doing that, I guess it depends on your point of view, but it can hinder growth and development just because the cost of land in Bolton is so high and the cost of construction is so high right now that a developer looking at Bolton and seeing that, oh geez, I don't have a way to, get out of building an affordable unit, which the prices are set so much lower than what the new housing costs are now. It could deter them from wanting to build here. That was the research that I had found when we were modifying, that section of the inclusionary housing bylaw a couple of years ago. And I don't expect that that's changed any.
Well, it just seems like we've had a lot of developments and they're opting not to build affordable units in the development. Either they're giving us a parcel outside the development or maybe they're giving us money. Sometimes it's taking a while, like with Century Mill. And the money's, just sitting there. It just seems like if we're going to be aggressive about this, we should consider getting rid of that option and, get developers to build the units within their development like Mark has at his. Yeah, I don't buy that developers aren't going to develop in Bolton because of that, a change in that requirement.
Sure, we can certainly research that again and I can bring that to the board's attention.
Okay, do Brian and Mark, do you need anything more from us at this point?
No, I think just to give you a sense of the process from this point forward, we still need to present this to the Conservation Commission, and we already presented to the Planning Board and the Master Plan Steering Committee with the idea of just getting feedback, sort of like the questions you all have been asking, and then we're gonna publish to the website sort of a revised final draft. And I don't know, Erica, whether we agreed we were going to do it for like 14 days or 30 days or what, but basically it'll go up on the website for a period for public comment. And then after that, we'll just, assuming you don't have any objection, we'll ask Don Lowe to send it on.
And if someone wanted to see this presentation or some of the work you have in process, where could they go to look at that?
I think we'd have to get it up on the website. It's a good question.
I think at least the PowerPoint should go up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we had decided to be like for 30 days for public comment once we get the full report put together. But I think having
Sure.
The PowerPoint as a reduced version as compared to a 60-page report or whatever the final one is, will be helpful as well. So I think we can do both.
This gives people something to react to.
Absolutely.
I think it's quite a complicated topic too. So maybe there's an opportunity here to do a short video just to help educate residents on this particular topic. So I'll look into that and figure out if we can do something like that. So.
Bolton Cable's looking for content.
There you go.
And Brian is very photogenic.
Yes, he is.
There you go. Unlike the Selectman. Anyway.
Think for yourself.
All right. Well, thanks very much. I know you guys got a busy night, so
All right,
appreciate all the
thank you
work.
very
We'll,
much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Brian.
Take
Good
care.
work.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Next up is a discussion and possible vote to reduce the Economic Development Committee from 9 to 7 members. Don, could you walk us through this?
Yes, this request comes from the Economic Development Committee. They originally were 11 members and they went down to 9. I think if I remember correctly, I researched that happened in March. And they are now requesting again to go down to 7. Difficult for them, I think, to maintain a quorum or a challenge anyway.
Okay.
Who's chairing that now, Don?
I believe it's still Eric Nyland, but let me double check. I have the list right here. Yeah, it's still Eric.
Okay.
I have no problem with this.
All right, could I get a motion?
So moved.
A second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Roll call, Wysocki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move on to the town administrator report. Mr. Don Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the COVID-19 update. I mean, I guess the good news is, from my perspective, there's nothing new to report. Things are going well. We did the full reopening to the public back on July 6th, and I think things have been going very smoothly. You know, we did have our protocols established and our distancing markers and our plexiglass and so forth. And the volume of people coming in is nowhere near what pre-COVID was, which is pretty much what we expected. You know, people are leery about coming in. You know, people have really learned about the online options that we have, and they're really taking advantage of them. People are utilizing the Dropbox rather than come in many times to make payments, which is exactly what it's there for. So I think we're in a good spot right now. The numbers statewide continue to look pretty solid. I think the last 7-day rolling average that I saw was a positive test rate of 1.4%. And I know at the local level, we've been on the same number for quite some time. And that number doesn't, the number that we have at the local level doesn't jive with the state level. And I think that we're looking into that, but I think it's some retesting. I think it's some double counting there because we're at 18 versus 11. And I think there was, I think that reflects more than one test in a couple of cases, but we have been very, very low here. And so things are very much status quo, which I'm actually relieved about. Because if I thought things weren't going well, I would look at going back to by appointment only. And I'm not feeling like that we need to do that. So congratulations to the staff on how they're on how we're operating here, and congratulations to the public for following the protocols that we've established. We appreciate that. Next, staff update. Our Parks and Rec coordinator, Ally Webb, has resigned, and we are advertising again for the position. I think it's an important position. It's one that we do need to fill, and we'll be advertising for I think another couple of weeks, and then we'll be looking to schedule interviews for that. And just as last time, it would be the chairman of Parks and Rec and our HR director and myself doing the interviews. Next, the FY20 MassWorks update. The mast arms really are in. It's not an urban legend. They showed up yesterday. The installation is pretty much done. There'll be some tweaking tomorrow morning. The engineer will be on site at 9, and we'll be taking one last look at it. And then we'll have them flashing for about 10 days to get people used to the fact that there are signals there. And after about 10 days, we will have the programming done, and then they'll be fully operational. So very, very excited about that. That's the last step in the project for the most part. I mean, we did a site walk and put a punch list together, and primarily what we're looking at is I want the grass replaced in the grass strips between the sidewalk and the curbing. And I discussed that with the engineer and the project manager for the contractor on site yesterday, and there's no issues with that. It'll be redone. We will do that in September when the growing season is better, rather than trying to do it in August. But the contractor is committed to doing that. And once that's done, then we start looking at final payments and retainage and that type of thing. But ETL has been a good contractor to work with, and I'm sure that we'll be able to button things up. Also, as you know, I moved forward with the truck exclusion process last week. A week ago Monday, I met with the Clinton Traffic Committee, which after some discussion voted unanimously to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that Clinton support our request on a one-year trial basis. And if by the end of 1 year there were no concerns, it would remain in place. But if during that year there were concerns expressed by Clinton that they could revoke their support, then that last Wednesday night, the Clinton Board of Selectmen discussed it, and they felt differently. They felt that it wasn't in the best interest of the town to support the request for the exclusion, and voted unanimously to not support our request. So next, I'll be having conversation with Mass DOT to get their final thoughts on it. I can tell you that I'm not saying anything that anybody on Main Street doesn't already know. While I was down on the site as recently as yesterday, standing at the intersection, meeting with the engineer and the contractor, you see big trucks trying to turn on the water aquatic, big trucks turning off water aquatic. Very, very dangerous situation. Doesn't lend itself to that intersection at all. And I'm still hoping that Mass DOT will see their way clear to support the truck exclusion. So I'm not giving up on this until we've exhausted every avenue.
Don, on the flashing yellow lights, you're basically going to go live the week before Labor Day weekend.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are, well, not a lot of people compared to past years, but when I guess traffic would be at its lowest point for some time. And I'm wondering if it might not be better to wait another week.
Honestly, I actually see that as a good thing, starting it with traffic at its lowest point. There's fewer opportunities for someone to run a light that they shouldn't be running. So I think the more we get into heavier traffic season, I think the more opportunity we have for people to not be comfortable with it. I mean, obviously, whatever the board thinks is fine with me, but I personally, I like that timing.
Any other comments on that?
I think it's fine. I
Okay.
think it'd be better to start before school. Well, I guess school's starting that week. I don't know.
I think it's on September 16th now, isn't it?
Oh, right. Yeah, it would be good to do it before school starts. Not that we know what that means, but
Right.
I think it's fine to start. I think I agree with Don that, starting it up when there's a little bit less traffic probably is a good thing. So I'm not.
Okay. Okay.
And then finally, well, actually, before I get into my goals, I would just like to, I was going to do this under public service, but under my report, I also would just like to mention that we are at a stage 2 or a level 2 drought situation. And we will be having information going up both on the conservation webpage and the Board of Health webpage, asking people to take voluntary measures as far as the use of water goes. We've gone back to the recommendations that the Water Use Subcommittee had a couple of years ago, and we'll be getting that up. So just to try to educate people and remind people and raise the level of awareness. As you know, the entire town is on wells, so any compliance is voluntary. We can't issue a water ban or anything like that, but we can certainly encourage people and educate people that we are in a drought situation right now. So we're taking those steps. And then my FY21 goals, Jenny actually has a handout that she's going to share on the screen. I thought this would be a good document to work from. It's pretty self-explanatory. As you already know, I've filed all the paperwork to get started on the conversion of the streetlights from phosphorus to LED. So want to see the successful conversion done during this fiscal year. Things are moving a bit slowly with National Grid. That's not a criticism. It's just, part of the climate that we live in right now with the pandemic, but we are moving forward on that. As I believe I mentioned previously, I wanted to explore, and I still do want to explore, the possibility of an electric car, or I should say electric vehicle, but it's presumably electric car charging station in town, and pursue the incentives that National Grid offers. The phrase that they've used with me up to this point is it's almost free. So almost free means it costs some level of money, and I don't quite understand what that level of money is yet, but have had discussions already with National Grid, and I do want to pursue that. I do know the option we would pursue would need to be on town land, and I have discussed a spot over at the Public Safety Building with both chiefs, and they're both supportive of it. So I already know what location I would like to propose to put it in if we get to that point. I would like to continue to successfully manage the capital planning process. As part of my review last year and part of my goals, it was viewed, the capital planning process was reviewed as being successful. And just to outline for the board what that process looked like, for FY21 planning, there were 3 departments that had capital requests. There was the fire chief, who had 1, the library that had 2, and DPW, which had several. So I met with each department head separately to understand the nature of their requests, and then went back with each of the 2 department heads that had multiple requests and had discussions with them about, what their priorities were within the department. And once we sorted that out, then I took a step back and looked at townwide, what we should be looking at, my take of what the priorities were from top to bottom. And then once I did that, I went back and sat with the individual department heads again and shared my views to let them offer what they thought, if they thought anything should be tweaked, if they thought one of their requests wasn't ranked highly enough. Once we were done with that, then I initially shared it with Brian Boyle, chair of the advisory committee, to get his thoughts. And then finally, I shared with the selectmen, I shared with, and I presented the capital plan to the full advisory committee. So that was the process that I used last year. Was I had the departments involved as closely as I could, and certainly weighed all their input as I came up with my final recommendations. Continue to work with the advisory committee to assist on the budget process for FY22. Before you know it, I don't like saying this, but before you know it, we're going to be sending out the budget message, the budget calendar for FY22. I work very closely again with the chair on what the message is. It comes out from both of us, and then we publish the calendar for the year, which is the roadmap. And then I work with advisory as closely as possible, and certainly with the department heads. Number 5, create and manage any necessary modifications to our current processes relative to the COVID-19 pandemic. As we know, this is a very fluid situation. We already learned from March to now, the changes that we've seen, the orders that have come down from the governor. Again, I think we're in a good place, but looking out to the future, we don't know what we don't know. So I will react and adjust as necessary to anything new that may come down the pike. And as I said, if I think things starting to go the wrong way, I wouldn't hesitate to switch back to by appointment only, but I won't do that unless I really feel like it's necessary. Number 6, as I've discussed with you previously, I am working now already to pursue the feasibility of the installation of a solar array on town-owned land. Whether that was for the town's consumption of electricity, or whether it's to lease it out to another entity and we would see revenue from that, or both, would be to be determined, but I would really like to work on something like that. And then finally, ongoing support to the master plan steering committee. I have worked with the committee as needed up until now, and I would continue to do so until the completion of their work. So in a nutshell, those are the 7 goals that I am putting forward for FY21 for the consideration of the board, and any comments or suggestions that you have.
Stan, Jonathan?
Looks good.
I
Thanks.
think it's a good list. So it's gonna keep Don busy.
Yeah, I would like to go back to the capital planning process. I would like to see a 3-year plan with proposed financing, proposed, not locked in financing. Start. I'd like to see a 3-year capital plan with the cost of how much it's going to have to be laid out, and whether or not this is something that we should be saving up for, or paying out of taxes, or borrowing for, or just paying out of free cash. But I'd like to see a 3-year process. I'd like to see a 3-year plan every year.
I think that's a great idea. I'd be happy to do that. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I actually
Okay.
think that's what advisory was looking to do. We had that gentleman come in from, I forget what town it was, Boxborough. or something.
Northborough,
Northborough.
John
That's
Cordair from
exactly-
Northborough.
That's exactly what the goal is to take a much longer range view.
Sure.
So I'm fully supportive of that.
Okay,
No,
that would be good.
no, I totally agree.
That would be good. You know, it's going to be a cultural difference for the departments, but you know, we start it, and it'll take a couple iterations to get it right. But that would be good if you could add that to the include that with your goals. Excellent.
No, Jenny probably already has done that. And unless the board has any questions or comments, that's all I have for tonight.
Could you just do a little update? I think you did on, you know, a release went out a week or so ago about a town employee being infected with, I think, West Nile, but then that was retracted. If you could just go over that situation again, that would be helpful.
Sure, I'll repeat what I said to Cindy Bremer, which and she accurately reported what I said in today's paper. We received an initial report from the state that one of our employees had a presumptive positive, which they felt was 99.9% accurate. But upon further review, more information came back, and it ended up being negative for that.
Okay, good.
And no spraying was done as a result of that presumptive positive. So there was no action taken at the local level other than to report what we believe to be accurate at the time.
Okay, and the employee's doing okay?
The employee's doing okay.
All right, good. Okay, going on to Board of Selectmen business. Are there any public service announcements?
No, thanks.
Not tonight.
Okay, we need to execute the warrant for the 2020 state primary. Could I have a motion for that?
Make a
Make a
motion, we
motion
execute
to-
the warrant for the 2020 state primary.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye,
Roll call, Waisaki,
aye,
Keep,
aye,
Sikansky.
Aye.
And this is the document that requires wet signatures from the Board of Selectmen. So I'll have that with the other document that you're coming in to sign.
okay,
All right. Next up is review and execute the memorandum of agreement for the Neshoba Cadet EMT program. I assume that this has no major changes from the prior agreement, Don?
No, it's being revised to reflect the integration of the ambulance department into the fire department.
Okay.
So the edits that have been made, and you'll see a couple of things like dates in there that we can't edit at the moment because it's a Google Doc. So it needs to be done by the owner, and we'll take care of that. But no, really, that's so our information here will reflect identically with what OEMS has for information.
Okay. Could I have a motion to execute the
I just had a
memorandum of
question.
agreement? Certainly.
Bob, I just had a question.
Go ahead.
Don, when it says the town's responsible, does that mean the town budget, or does it mean the EMT budget, like paying for things?
That would be the EMT budget within the fire department. Yes.
Okay, good, that's it.
okay, I'll make a motion, we approve the memorandum of agreement, special project waiver for the cadet EMT program, starting this year.
Second,
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye,
Aye.
aye,
Roll call, Waisaki,
aye,
Keep,
aye,
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next up is to authorize the town administrator to make a decision on the community choice aggregation plan. The decision would be to which consultant to hire.
No, it would actually be to lock in the rate that we have identified at when the committee updated the selectmen last. They said, and they're correct, that those prices are very volatile. They're normally good for the day they're offered. So they had mentioned at the time the board would need to authorize me to be able to sign on behalf of the town when the opportunity comes forward to lock in whatever pricing that we're looking at.
Okay. Would someone like any questions?
nope.
nope,
Motion, please.
I'll make a motion to authorize Don Lowe, Town Administrator, to make decisions on the community choice aggregation plan.
second,
All those in favor? Aye.
aye,
Roll call, Waisaki,
aye,
Keep,
Aye,
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
There are a number of gifts that have been bestowed upon the town going back to last October. And the selectmen must formally accept them. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that in the past, we've read through them quickly.
yes,
Okay. So I will do that from Gerald Pryor, $200 for Hometown Heroes. Bolton Capital Group, $2,000 for Hometown Heroes. John and Irene Foster, $50 for Hometown Heroes. Michael and Clara Murphy, $250 for Hometown Heroes. The Oshner Charitable Foundation for Senior Fuel Assistance. Linda and Robert King, $25 for senior fuel assistance. The Bolton Lions Club, $1,000 for senior fuel assistance. Bolton Senior Citizens Association, $1,220 for senior fuel assistance. Various other people and entities, $1,100 for Hometown Heroes. various people and entities, $870 for a wreath donation. 626 Main Street, $30 for a wreath donation. Bolton Bean, $30 for a wreath donation. Various people and entities, $215 for Hometown Heroes. John Crowitz, $100 for senior fuel assistance. Rosemary Goyette, $100 for senior fuel assistance. Pam Powell, $100 for senior fuel assistance. Versa Oil, $200 for senior fuel assistance. Various entities and people donating $500 for Hometown Heroes, $830 for senior fuel assistance, $236.34 for the Parks and Recreational Gift Fund, $340 for the Ambulance Gift Fund, $100 for the Police Gift Fund, $500 for senior fuel assistance, and $130 for the Ambulance Gift Fund. Total value of these gifts and donations is $9,656.34. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the gifts as read.
So moved.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Roll call. Waisaki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
We need a motion to approve the bills, payrolls, and warrants. As noted, W 2028, 2028A, 21-1, 21-2A, 21-2, 21-2A, 21-3, 21-3A, 21-4, 21-4A.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say
Can I-
aye.
Can I
Aye.
interrupt?
Aye.
I'm sorry. I just noticed there is a typo. 21-2A is listed twice. 21-1A is missing.
Do I have to read them all over again now, Jenny? Is that what you're,
Sorry.
all right.
No.
Just add 21-1A.
The motion as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Roll call. Waisaki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's my understanding there are no minutes for review tonight.
That
Is
is
that correct?
correct.
Is there anything else, gentlemen, or do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Roll call. Waisaki,
Aye.
Keep,
Aye.
Sikansky.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Don.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good one.